waiting at a high power charger watching the numbers slow to a crawl and thinking the station is broken. What if I told you that slowdown is actually the point, and slowing down can get you moving faster? Today we're unpacking the mysterious curve-shaped charging curve that every electric owner will meet sooner or later. You'll learn what happens inside the battery when power climbs, why chargers taper off instead of staying flat, and how car makers secretly tweak these profiles to make batteries last longer. By the end, you will know when to top up, when to push for the last 20%, and how to treat charging like a strategy, not a panic. Hello everyone, I'm Shayan, an engineer specialized in electric vehicle development. Think of charging like filling a glass with water from a tap that changes size. At first, the tap is wide and water gushes in. As the glass fills, the tap shrinks, the flow slows, and the last bit takes forever. That's the curve in a nutshell. Batteries are chemical systems, not buckets. When you plug into a DC fast charger, the station and the car negotiate how much power can safely flow. Early on, the battery accepts high current because its voltage is low and temperature can be managed. That's the constant current phase. As the battery fills, its voltage rises and internal resistance matters more. To avoid overheating and chemical damage, the charger and battery switch to a constant voltage mindset and taper current down. That taper is what makes the curve look like what it is. There are three broad stages to keep in mind. Initial ramp and constant current, where the battery soaks up the most energy fast. This phase often covers roughly from lowest state of charge up to somewhere around 40 to 60%, depending on the car and conditions. It's where you get the most miles per minute. The transition and taper as voltage climbs and the current drops. This is the heart of the curve. Power falls even though the charger could be capable of more. It protects cells from stress and unwanted chemistry. The finishing phase and the top of balancing, where the battery manager trickles smaller current to equalize the individual cells. This can be disappointingly slow compared to the earlier stages. So why batteries need this curve? Inside a lithium-ion cell, charging is about moving lithium ions from one electrode to the other. When you push too hard, as the cells are going near full, these ions can plate onto the wrong surface or create loose materials that reduce capacity. So why batteries need this curve? Inside a lithium-ion cell, charging is about moving lithium ions from one electrode to the other. When you push too hard, as the cells are near full, those ions can plate onto the wrong surface or create loose materials that reduces capacity. Temperature and voltage are the two enemies. If voltage gets too high while battery is cold, plating and permanent damage are much more likely. Manufacturers and battery management systems slow down the current as protective measure. That taper minimizes lithium plating, reduces heat buildup, balances individual cells to make sure none is overworked. And also it extends long-term capacity and cycle life. An everyday example that shows the point is like this. Picture a 75 kilowatt hour battery and a fast charger capable of 150 kilowatts. If you charge from 10 to 80%, that's 70% of 75, which is 52.5 kilowatt hours. If the charger and battery allow the full 150 kilowatts during that stretch, then divide 52.5 by 150 and you get 0.35 hours, which is 21 minutes. Pretty quick. Now, the final 20% is 15 kilowatt hours. If during that top up, the average power falls to 20 kilowatts because of tapering, then 15 divided by 20 equals to 0.75 hours, or 45 minutes. That means the last 20% takes more than twice as long as the earlier 70% slice. So stopping at 80% can be much faster on a road trip than trying to finish every charging session to 100%. Most people expect charging speed to behave like filling gas. You pull up, pump, and the time is linear. In reality, the numbers are cruelly different. Drivers waste time waiting for slow top-offs, public chargers get congested, and the industry sees a tug of war between convenience and longevity. The challenge is balancing fast charging for trips with battery care for long-term value. Let's talk through the real-world parts that control the curve and how different brands approach it. First, the battery chemistry and cell format. Some chemistries tolerate higher current at higher state of charge better than the others. Manufacturers pick blends that match their intended use. A car built for long range might favor chemistry that accepts lots of energy early without too much degradation. A car aimed for daily commute might accept slower peak rates to protect the battery's lifespan. Second, thermal management. If the battery can keep cool while charging, it will accept more power longer. That's why cars with active liquid cooling or battery preconditioning hit higher peaks more reliably. If a pack is cold, charging is intentionally throttled until it warms up. Third, the powertrain and the battery software. The battery management system is a secret sauce. It decides when to ramp up, when to taper, when to cut off. Some brands choose aggressive initial current with conservative top offs, others moderate the entire curve to keep degradation low. Fourth, the charger and the network. Not all DC fast chargers are equal. The station's maximum power, how many cards it serves at once, and whether it shares a power cabinet all change to the real power you see at the socket. Charging on a 50 kilowatt urban charger versus a 250 kilowatt highway unit will feel very different. Fifth, state of charge and user settings. Many EVs let you set charging limits by habit. Frequent topping to 80 or 90% affects how often you visit the slower taper zone. Fleet operators and ride-hailing drivers often accept reduced peak power or constrain top limits to extend battery service life. Different makers optimize differently based on strategy. Some focus on peak performance. They allow high burst power under perfect thermal conditions. And then quickly taper. They lean on battery chemistry and cooling to deliver short, intense charging sessions. Marketing loves the headline numbers here. 0 to 80% in 20 minutes sounds great. The catch is the condition for those headlines are narrow. Certain temperatures, low battery age, specific state of charge windows. Others favor longevity. Their software gently manages voltage, limits high current more often, and slows the curve to preserve capacity. That might add a few minutes to every DC session, but can mean a battery that retains more capacity after thousands of cycles. A manufacturer adds smart tricks as well. Battery preconditioning that raises pack temperature before you arrive at the charger to accept higher power. They also add road trip mode that biases the battery and thermal system to accept and sustain peak power. They have adaptive charging profiles that learn your daily habits and avoid aggressive charging when you always charge overnight at home. Here's the twist everyone misunderstands. Sometimes intentionally slowing how fast you charge early avoids being stuck in the slow finish. And that can save time on certain trips. If you push the battery to extreme power at a high state of charge, the pack will heat and the BMS will clamp power earlier. By charging smartly, like charging in a wider state of charge window at the charger, where the battery can sustain higher power, you actually reduce total time on the road. Smart charging strategies include charging in bursts between 10 and 60% where the battery naturally accepts higher current. This gives the best miles per minute, preconditioning the battery on approach so the pack warms and can accept more power. There's also preheating. Preheat until the BMS signals ready for high power and splitting long charges into shorter stops rather than one long stop that tries to stop 200%. Two stops at 80% can be faster than one stop at 100% because you avoid the slower taper. There's no single right answer here. Your priority changes the calculus. If you daily drive 30 miles and charge at home overnight, treating the battery gently and topping to 80% most days is ideal for longevity. If you're on a cross-country trip and minutes matter, use DC fast chargers and accept faster cycling with occasional top-offs. Be aware of these realities. Charging to 100% regularly increases calendar and cycle degradation more than occasional 100%. Cold weather also reduces peak charging power and increases risk of lithium plating if charged hard. Extremely high power charging stations only help if the car and the battery are both willing and thermally prepared. Charger networks sometimes limit power based on queuing or shared power with other chargers. So, what really happened when you thought the charger was slow? Remember the picture of the number slowing? That's the battery protecting itself. The curve is not a flaw, it's a feature. When the car slows the current, it's trading off raw speed for long term capacity. Brands tune this trade off differently. Fast headline numbers are often achieved with strong cooling, precise preconditioning, and ideal battery chemistry. Quiet, consistent longevity comes from conservative voltage management and gentler curves. If you accept the science behind the taper, you can make better choices. For daily life, set your car to charge to about 80% and charge overnight. Before long trips, precondition. Plan charging stops to top to 80% and avoid trying to squeeze the last 20% unless you need it. Use in-car settings that prioritize battery health if you rarely need full range. Here are some practical tips to use right now. Aim to arrive at fast chargers with battery between 10 and 40% when possible. That maximizes high power window. Use the vehicle's preconditioning feature before hitting a high power station on the highway. Stop for a quicker 80% rather than stretching out to 100% for marginal benefits. If charging in cold weather, give time to warm the battery or let preconditioning run. Monitor charger and vehicle temperatures. If power drops early, it might be the thermal limits. So wait and try again later if possible. Here are the takeaways. The curve-shaped charging curve protects the battery life by tapering current as voltage rises. Early charging is efficient and fast. The final top-offs is slow and deliberate. Manufacturers tune curves for either fast peaks or long-term durability. Stopping around 80% often gives the best trade-off between time and battery health. Two shorter stops at high power windows can be faster than one long slow top-offs. Preconditioning and good thermal systems let car hold peak power longer. And try to learn your car's features and use them when you need speed. The charging curve is less a mystery and more a careful negotiation between speed and chemistry. Slowdown isn't a failure, it's protection. Knowing where the fast window are, how your car behaves, and how to time charging stops means less wasted time, better battery health, and fewer annoyed detours. Charging smart beats charging hard, and that little bit of strategy will make your EV life smoother and cheaper over the long run.